You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, General Hospital fans. So we're seeing Dante having this growing animosity towards Gio, basically out of nowhere. This is his secret son, and so this feels like another redo of the same old plot that GH likes to do, where there's a secret parent and child relationship, and they dislike each other right before they find out they're related. Do you know how many times GH has done this? It's a lot. We're going to talk about it. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and we're going to look back real quick at how GH always makes people hate each other while building up to a secret paternity or maternity connection. This is, I think, the fifth time at least that they've done it. And now they're playing it out again with Dante Falconeri and Gio Palmieri. So right now, the people that know that Dante is Gio's father are Lois, her mom Gloria, and Martin Gray, the lawyer. I think that's pretty much it. But Lulu's on the case, and it looks like she's about to figure it out and blow this whole thing wide open. And this dislike that Dante has for Gio, it's come out of the blue. It's very ill-placed. It's not organic. It's very awkward. It's very forced. That's what I feel watching it. Honestly, just it feels contrived and out of character for Dante. Obviously, he was scared about what Rocco did, but Gio clearly did nothing wrong when it came to the college party where Rocco got drunk. And what's funny is I was watching Monday's episode and my husband walked through my office and said, oh yeah, GH is going to make Dante hate Gio just like they did with Sonny and Dante. And I laughed and I was like, oh, they wouldn't do that again. And then a few minutes later, I was like, hubby called it. They are doing it again. Everybody thought Gio was a great kid until this alcohol poisoning incident. We haven't heard an unkind word about him. And then Dante all of a sudden is blaming Gio, who didn't take him to the party, didn't know he was there, none of that. And he even threatened criminal charges. They are making Dante dislike Gio in a very transparent ploy to replay history yet again. This is, as I said, the fifth time this has happened. Maybe more, but 5. This is the fifth time I can recall. Do you remember the 4 other times that they had two characters hate each other before a big parent and child reveal? We're going to talk about it. So speaking of Dante, let's talk about him and Sonny first. If you have been watching General Hospital for a while, you'll recall that when Dante first came to Port Charles, he had no idea Sonny was his dad and vice versa. Sonny didn't know either. Dante's mother, Olivia Falconeri, got pregnant as a teen, but she never told Sonny and raised him as a single mom. And then lo and behold, a couple of decades later, Dante popped up in Port Chuck as an undercover cop using a fake name. He was trying to take Sonny down because he was a mob boss, and Dante got the goods on him, but then he felt guilty for building a case against Sonny because they had gotten close. And when the warrant came in the end, Dante was like, okay, I have to do my job. He went to arrest Sonny, and by then Jason and Sonny figured out Dante was a cop. Sonny set a trap, and he shot Dante point blank. He almost killed him. Olivia showed up and screamed at Sonny that he had just shot his own son. That's how Sonny found out about his kid. Dante almost died. He recovered. He did not rat out Sonny for shooting him. And although they're close now, Dante and Sonny conflicted over the years because they are on opposing sides of the law. And now, lo and behold, we're getting a second generation secret son storyline with Gio and Dante. And although it's not identical to the Sonny and Dante story, the vibe and intent are very much the same. Next, you cannot forget about Sam and Alexis. Things got off to a bad start when Sam had gotten pregnant by Sonny at the same time that his and Alexis's daughter, Christina, who was little back then, was sick. And Alexis wanted Sam to induce labor early so they could use the stem cells from her umbilical cord to save Christina because they were half sisters. And Sam was very reluctant. She knew it would be risky, but in the end she agreed. And then, of course, sadly, baby baby Lila died. So there was a lot of resentment from Sam aimed at Alexis, and then things got even worse between them when her brother Danny was dying of encephalitis. Alexis also had it and got the life-saving serum while Danny did not, and then he died. And of course, Sam named her son Danny after her brother Danny. Right before he died, Danny told Sam that she was adopted. And that happened at the same time that her dislike of Alexis was intensifying. And of course, later when Sam found out Alexis was her mom, she wasn't thrilled. Things got even messier between Sam and Alexis when Sam slept with Rick while he was married to Alexis. Even worse, when Sam and Rick were doing the deed on the living room rug, Alexis actually saw them going at it through the window. I remember that so vividly. And eventually, Sam and Alexis grew into this wonderful mother-daughter relationship. And then, of course, she tragically lost Sam when Cyrus murdered her last year. This was yet another storyline contrived to make a secret parent and child hate each other before the big reveal. Next, got to talk about Nenah and Willow, right? They disliked each other from the jump. That was back when Michelle Stafford was playing the role of Nenah. And at the time, Willow was Charlotte Castadine's teacher, and Nenah was her devoted stepmother. That was when she was with Valentine. So Nenah hassled Willow. She accused her of being unfair and unkind to Charlotte. And as it turned out, Willow was in the right. Charlotte was in the wrong because the kid was a school bully. And Nenah tried to get Willow fired, and Nenah probably would have made it happen if not for a petition signed by a lot of other parents saved Willow's job. Meanwhile, Nenah was on a mission to find her long-lost daughter she gave birth to during that 20-year-long coma, and it turns out that her daughter was Nell Hayes, but there was more to come because Harmony Miller turned out not to be Willow's bio mom and Nenah was, so they were doing a whole bunch of retcon stuff on top of this. Turns out Nenah had twins while in a coma, and her awful mom, Madeline Reeves, wanted the kids out of Nenah's life because she hated Silas Clay, the twins' father. So Nell died in the interim, and Nenah thought she'd never be a mom, and then the twin twist. And immediately, Nenah wanted to put their past behind them so she could be a mom to Willow, but she rejected her, and it was just a whole lot of back and forth. They're in a good spot now, of course, but it seems doomed because of Nenah plotting against Drew. I feel like Willow and Nenah's relationship is on borrowed time. And last, but by no means least, we're going to go back in time to the very first of these storylines that I can recall on GH, which is Bobby and Carly Spencer. Things with them were particularly volatile because Carly came to Port Charles hell-bent on destroying her biological mom, Bobby. So this first story was slightly different because Carly knew Bobby was her mom when she came to town, unlike the other reveals where both the child and the parent were in the dark. So that's kind of why I saved this one for last, but it was really the genesis of all of this that they keep repeating and repeating and repeating, every 10 years or so. Carly did not have the best childhood, and she resented Bobby. She thought that her mom had this charmed life in Port Charles and had just kicked her aside. Of course, Carly had no idea about Bobby's rough and tragic upbringing, living in a brothel as a teen, working as a prostitute for years. All Carly saw was this nice, cushy life Bobby had worked very hard to create for herself, but Carly thought that she had just been handed it. She wanted to destroy her, so she seduced Bobby's husband, Tony Jones. And we saw Carly destroy Bobby's marriage and then dismantle her life piece by piece. But in the end, Carly and Bobby ended up having a loving mother and daughter relationship that lasted up until the time of her mother's death. Bottom line, secret parents and children hating each other is a long-running repeat plot on General Hospital. And now they're doing it again with Dante and Gio, but this dislike cropped up out of the blue. It feels very forced. This is not an organic storyline. This, they've been teasing it for a while, so they had time to do it right, but they're just kind of doing it rushed, I feel, in terms of the dislike between Dante and Gio. And because Dante has known Gio since he was a baby and he always liked him, and vice versa. And now the GH writers are doing this insta-hate vibe between Dante towards Gio to repeat the plot line. And we all know how it's going to go. They'll be shocked, and then Dante and Gio will wind up bonding, and they'll become close as father and son. We've all been there. We've seen it on GH. We got the t-shirt. It's a shame that they do repeat plots instead of coming up with new ones, but it is what it is.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.